Welcome back, guys, to the final installment of my top 10 players of 2017. And as pretty much all of you have guessed, I do have Kaydop as number one. But before I get into Kaydop and explain why I do have him at number one ahead of all of his main rivals, let me just very quickly go through the honourable mentions, the players who just missed out, or who I was having to think really hard about including. And the first one of them is Fireburner from NRG. He was super close. Fireburner, Fairy Peak, and Gimmick, my 8, 9, or 9, 10, 11. I was really struggling to decide who to put in out of those three. And I decided to give Fairy Peak the number 9 because he was the only player from his team that was in there. And then it was just between Gimmick and Fireburner. I'd already put both of their respective teammates in there, and I decided, alright, I think Gimmick has had a marginally better year because at times people have thought that he's the carry of Cloud9 and really done an incredible job showing up in his debut year as well. The fact that it was his first ever year at the top, given bonus points, that was my reasoning for giving him the edge over Fireburner, because honestly they had super similar years. Fireburner had a great start, getting a third place at RLCS Season 3 online, first place at X Games, first place RLCS Season 3 online, and then it was 5th place DreamHack Atlanta, 3rd place RLCS Season 4 online, and then 3rd place Gnarly. Pretty good year all around, but just not quite enough to make top 10 in my opinion. Another very interesting player is Farah, who started off the year playing for the Leftovers and got 3rd place at RLCS Season 3 online, 4th place at RLCS Season 4 LAN, and then he had a bit of a gulf, not showing up to any LANs just because the teams that he's on didn't get invited, or because he was just changing up lineups. But he eventually landed on PSG, and of course they did really well. I think if they had just done better in E-League, I would have had Farah top 10 in a heartbeat. But of course E-League, they finished 5th place. RLCS Season 4 LAN, they also finished 5th place, so maybe a bit higher in there, and I could have put Farah top 10. But the 2nd place result at Gnarly, and 4th place again at RLCS Season 4 online. This is a guy who's really been messed around, and he's been having to switch teams a lot throughout 2017. And he's been able to succeed, even more than some of the teams that he got kicked from. Like he was initially, I think, removed from Fnatic by Sticky and Snasky. I don't really know how that went. I don't point any fingers or start a witch hunt on Sticky and Snasky. But whatever happened, the Sticky and Snasky stuck together, and Farah got removed and had to go look for a new team. But his new team actually did better in the short run, so it worked out pretty well for him. He again just barely missed out, and I think, like I said, he needed a better result in RSS Season 4 LAN or E-League to get into my top 10, in my opinion. The other two are, of course, Kronovi and Rizzo, who had the exact same results all year long as JNaps, but they had, of course, a hugely disappointing Universal Open showing where they showed up to the LAN, and I can't remember, they got eliminated really early, that's all I know. And of course, people are all pointing fingers at these two, Kronovi and Rizzo, getting carried by JNaps allegedly all through the year. And I don't think that's entirely true, and showing up and getting 1st place in E-League was absolutely a team effort. Getting 4th place at RLCS Season 4 LAN was, of course, a team effort, but JNaps is certainly the standout player for that team, and as an individual had certainly, I think, a much better year, getting MVPs and high points per game totals across the board, when other times Rizzo and Kronovi are a bit struggling. But results wise, Rizzo and Kronovi did just as well as JNaps. I think they're both a tiny bit ahead in prize money because there was Universal Open. Even though they didn't win or do well, they still showed up and got to the LAN, so that's decent. I've got another, very quickly, few players to mention. First one is Mystic, who got 1st place RLCS Season 3 online, 2nd place RLCS Season 3 LAN, 1st place at DreamHack Summer, and then we got 5th place at DreamHack Atlanta, X Games, and RLCS Season 4 online. Not the best finish of the year, because of course that was it, but that's where it ended. But Mystic was just, I think, a bit short of making top 10. The main reason I didn't put him in my top 10 is that DreamHack Summer, although he was able to win it with Flipside, the lineup there just wasn't that as stacked as other LANs. It was them and GFE and Rogue were really the only teams that were top tier, or considered top tier, and had LAN experience at that event. So despite winning it, we can't really give him too many points for that. Devo and Remco, again, same results. Both of them are in the exact same results boat. If I did have to put one of them in there, it would have to be Devo, because he was the RLCS Season 3 MVP. But I just don't think that winning RLCS Season 3 alone was a good enough result. We have to remember, they came into RLCS Season 3 as 4th seed because they kind of bombed the playoffs really hard. And then they got 3rd place at X Games and DreamHack Atlanta, and then 7th place in RLCS Season 4 online. If they had, again, just done better in RLCS Season 4, I would have probably had them close to top 10, maybe, they're already a little bit close to top 10, but certainly Devo would have been in top 10, but 7th place was just such a terrible result for these guys. They just weren't in the picture. Even after winning RLCS Season 3, I just had to take them out of the equation, unfortunately. The last 2 players I'm going to mention is Metsenoris and Magnus, and I have to mention them because I know a lot of people were guessing that these guys were going to be in there, even into the top end of my list. People are saying, I think that Metsenoris and Magnus are still going to be in here, or one or the other, maybe a lot even. But the reason I don't put them in is just because the results don't match how good we know they are as a team. They didn't really show up to any events. They failed to qualify for RLCS Season 3 LAN, and they were kind of not really showing up on LAN at things like Gfinity Elite Series. They're losing to teams they shouldn't be losing to, and they just weren't showing results that we knew they could, until Universal Open. Metsenoris and Magnus came 2nd place to Kaydop and Panda in the grand final. Then they came 2nd place RLCS Season 4 online. Unfortunately at Gnarly they came 5th, and RLCS Season 4 LAN, of course, best result of the year, 2nd place again. And like I've said for a few other players, if they had just done better in E-League, let's say for Farah had done better in E-League, I might have put him top 10. If Metzer or Magnus had done better in E-League with Method, I could have put them top 10. But 7th place at E-League, bottom of their group, just not good enough, so they just couldn't make the cut. But yeah, that's all my honorable mentions. I know there have been a lot. I know we're already like I think over 6 minutes into the video, but that is just shows how many players were in the conversation. These are all players I thought about and I decided against just because the results weren't there. The players who are in my top 10 had the results to back it up, but obviously these players are some of them are certainly people I'd put in my top 10 players currently, or other ones would definitely be in my top 10 players of all time for Rocket League, but for 2017, just looking at that time frame, all these guys just didn't make the cut. But anyway, back to the actual subject of the video. Kaydop, number 1, best player of 2017. I think we can all agree he's one of the best, but the reason I do have him as the best, of course, I've already talked about all of his individual results in my Violent Panda and Turbo Pulsar videos, so I won't go over those again, but just listen to this summary of his tournaments for the year. First place RLCS Season 3 Online, 2nd place RLCS Season 3 LAN, 2nd place DreamHack Summer, 2nd place X Games, 2nd place DreamHack Atlanta, 1st place Universal Open, 1st place RLCS Season 4 Online, 5th place Gnarly, 1st place RLCS Season 4 LAN, 2nd place E-League. It's just an incredible year. The 5th place at Gnarly is the one result, or the one tournament that he didn't get top 2 in, which is astonishing. He's just got everything, high placings right across the board. And of course that means he's way ahead in prize money at $81,701 from all the tournaments I've mentioned alone. That's not taking into account all the other weekly tournaments that this guy plays, because he's grinding. He is like absolutely, I think, the hardest working Rocket League pro that I've seen. Like just streaming and playing tournaments all over the place, whether it be local tournaments in France or online tournaments. He is, for me, the number 1 player of the year, just because he's had so many results compared to his main rivals, which of course are his teammates. Looking at him versus Turbo Pulsar head to head, because I know some people are going to make that comparison and say Turbo Pulsar is the 2-time. I already talked about this in my last video. Why have you not got Turbo number 1 when he won 2 RLCS seasons LANs? And it's just because Kaydop came 2nd at that tournament that Turbo won, where he came 1st. Kaydop was 2nd place. Kaydop was on match point with Mocket twice, and they just couldn't get it. So they was 1 game away 2 times from winning, from him being the 2-time RLCS champion. But Turbo was able to take it. And we have to also remember Kaydop won. He played through group stage and playoffs with Mocket, and although group stage they didn't have the best performance, they dominated the playoffs, came 1st place at RLCS Season 3 LAN, or online, which is a part of the year where Turbo Pulsar was just full-time substitute. So even looking at RLCS Season 3 as a isolated thing, just online playoffs and LAN, you could make a case for Kaydop making a bigger contribution than Turbo Pulsar, because Turbo Pulsar showing up as a sub and winning at the LAN is of course a phenomenal achievement, but Kaydop getting 1st place, I think, being the real standout player as well for the online portion of RLCS Season 3, and then getting 2nd place at the LAN by 1 game. You could make a case for like Kaydop having overall in that alone a better year than Turbo. But then when you throw in 1st place Universal Open as well on top of that, that's why I think Kaydop is the clear winner for 2017. as a whole. He's got the Universal Open and a very, very good RLCS Season 3. Compare that to Turbo having a very good RLCS Season 3, no Universal Open. Panda having Universal Open but a bad RLCS Season 3. Kaydop is just, I think, the runaway favourite. His win-loss for the year in series is 24-8. He's positive 16. Which is 3 ahead of both his teammates, so he's number 1 in that category, number 1 in prize money, just number 1 in everything really. And I don't think it takes that much investigation to see why he deserves to be number 1. It was tough initially, so I was like, but Turbo also won two RLCS. That's pretty good, you know, it's the 2-time. But Kaydop just missed out on RLCS. That's the key. He just very nearly got there, and he didn't have a bad RLCS Season 3 anyway. So when you take the online portion into account, so that's why I do have Kaydop as the number 1, Turbo close second, then a bit of a gap to Panda, then a huge gap to Squishy, and then very, very close for everybody up to about 8th place. And then of course I had Fairy Peak at 9, Gimmick at 10, and Fireburner, Thera, Mystic, Chronovi, Rizzo, Devo, Remco, Metza, Magnus. All those guys are right behind, just not quite making it into the top 10. And that's all the players I really was looking at. Unfortunately for Marky, Cuxer, Greasy, all these players who did phenomenally well last year, probably my top 3 of 2016, they just didn't have the results in 2017 to really show up and be considered in the same conversation. Not quite as all the other names I mentioned. But yeah, that's the end of the series. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Sorry, this video was not too much about Kaydop, mostly about honorable mentions, I get, or half about honorable mentions, half about Kaydop. But I did talk about GFE and their accomplishments in the last 2 videos. I didn't want to be repeating myself. And the real key, I think, for Kaydop is just work ethic. This guy just works incredibly hard, and hard work has paid off, and that's why he has been as dominant as he has, and will probably continue to be dominant into the future. But yeah, thanks to all you guys giving feedback in the comments. I've tried to listen to all the feedback that you guys have been giving. Keep doing that. Don't worry about hurting my feelings or anything. Just tell me honestly what you think, and I'll try and keep putting out the content that you guys are interested in. I know that there's a big variety. Like, my subscribers are probably quite a large variety of desires and what you want to see in content among you, but I try to mix it up, and I'll try to keep mixing it up, and do some funny stuff, do some serious stuff, do some casting, do some other content. I'll just try and keep on putting out the content that you guys want. So always looking at the comment section to see feedback on series like this and what you want to see in the future. I know that a lot of you guys have been saying please make a current top 10 players in the world, because I did talk about that a lot throughout this series. Reiterating the fact that this isn't my current top 10. This is just my 2017 top 10 based on accomplishments, and I think I will. I'll probably do that in January. I'll make a top 10 players in the world. Maybe I'll wait for there to be another tournament, which is looking like DreamHack Germany is going to be the next big one, and then maybe we'll see about putting together a top 10 players power rankings, and take it from there. But anyway, just want to say a final thank you to everybody giving feedback and watching this series. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully you all have a phenomenal Christmas and New Year. Of course, I'm still going to be making more videos every day up until the New Year, or pretty much every day until I stop making them every day. But a lot of them are already recorded, so hopefully you guys enjoy those. Hopefully you guys enjoy the 12 Titans qualifiers, which are going to be ongoing up until just the end of December. And yeah, give your feedback on that as well. But for now, that's going to be it, and I just want to say thanks for watching one more time, and take care. I'll see you next time.